The rain had barely stopped when the tow truck's hook clamped onto my food truck's bumper with a metallic thud. I was handing a plate of pulled pork to a National Guard captain, his uniform still damp from pulling families out of flooded homes. Behind me, a line of weary firefighters and paramedics waited for their first hot meal in hours. Then she appeared, Marlene, the HOA president, clipboard in hand, her lips curled into a smug grin. She'd called the tow truck without a word of warning, as if my truck, serving free meals in a disaster zone, was nothing more than a nuisance parked on her pristine street. 3 days earlier, a freak storm had torn through our small Ohio suburb, dumping 8 inches of rain and knocking out power to half the town. Roads were blocked, basements flooded, and the local shelters were bursting at the seams. I'd fired up my food truck, the Rolling Haven, not for profit but for people. As a former Army cook turned mobile kitchen owner, I'd built my truck for moments like this, equipped with a 72-hour generator, solar panels, and a FEMA-certified setup for emergency food distribution. I parked it in our neighborhood cul-de-sac, serving hot meals and clean water to anyone who needed it. EMTs working double shifts, families with ruined kitchens, cops patrolling flooded streets. No one paid a dime. Channel 5 even ran a story on it, calling me a local hero. That's probably what set Marlene off. She'd had it out for me since I moved into Maple Grove 2 years ago. My mailbox was too reflective, my lawn a 1/4 inch too long. But this time, she went too far. As the tow truck's engine roared, I ran out, a box of granola bars in hand, pleading with the driver. He shrugged, pointing to Marlene, who stood there waving her HOA handbook like a judge's gavel. Rule 6.4.1, she barked, no unregistered commercial vehicles. I explained this wasn't a taco stand, it was disaster relief. She scoffed, not my disaster. The truck was gone before I could finish, leaving a crowd of hungry first responders staring at an empty street. The kicker? An hour later, a catering van rolled into the same spot for Marlene's HOA brunch, unloading trays of pastries while she sipped mimosas with her cronies. Same type of vehicle, no tow, no fines. The hypocrisy was glaring. Retrieving my truck cost me $1,800, and the impound lot manager handed me a form with Marlene's signature, citing HOA enforcement. I paid, drove home, and learned from a firefighter that her stunt had delayed their response times. They'd gone looking for food that wasn't there anymore. I wasn't just mad, I was done playing nice. That night, I pored over the HOA bylaws, called the city clerk for zoning codes, and emailed my FEMA contact for legal backup. Marlene wasn't just a busybody, she was a bully, endangering lives over a personal grudge. I moved my truck to a church lot just outside HOA jurisdiction, flipped on the open sign, and watched the line form again. Firefighters, linemen, families with kids. The community rallied, and so did the media. I told a reporter everything: Marlene's tow, her brunch, her disregard for the crisis. The story aired, and her smugness started to crack. Then she escalated. I caught her on my truck's security camera, sneaking around at 2 a.m., slashing my generator cords. It was a criminal act, tampering with emergency equipment during a state-declared disaster. I handed the footage to the police, who took it seriously. Days later, she sent health inspectors, claiming I was running an unlicensed operation. They found nothing wrong. My truck was cleaner than most restaurants, with every log and permit in order. One inspector even stayed for a coffee and a biscuit, saying, "You're doing good work." Marlene didn't stop. She formed a group called Residents for Suburban Standards and spread flyers accusing me of exploiting the disaster for profit. One doctored photo showed me taking cash during a staged TV demo. It was libel, plain and simple. I consulted a lawyer who said we had a case but suggested a different approach: expose the truth. I compiled evidence, videos, witness statements, even a lineman's account of Marlene blocking an ambulance for her brunch. I sent it all to the city's code enforcement office, labeling her a public safety risk. The tide turned fast. The city investigated the HOA, and Channel 5 aired a follow-up, juxtaposing footage of me feeding a kid with a teddy bear against Marlene screaming about vegan wraps. The story went viral, drawing donations and support from across the region. A National Guard sergeant emailed, "Your food kept my team going. Thank you." Meanwhile, Marlene's allies went quiet. Her house stayed dark, shutters closed, as the neighborhood buzzed with chatter. At an emergency HOA meeting, She tried to spin the narrative, claiming I'd staged everything. But residents, nurses, teachers, even a pastor stood up, sharing stories of her tyranny, finding an ambulance for parking, banning a veteran's service dog. The board voted 4-1 to suspend her leadership pending investigation. She stormed out, muttering about lawsuits, but her reign was crumbling. I hosted a Feed the Neighborhood cookout, paying for everything myself: burgers, hot dogs, music, donation jars for storm victims. The mayor's aide gave me a civic award, and a veteran's wife thanked me for creating a safe space for her husband, who hadn't left home in days. That night, under twinkling lights, I realized this wasn't just about food, it was about community, something Marlene couldn't control. Her final move was a desperate cease and desist letter, accusing me of violating obscure codes. But I'd already secured an emergency permit, backed by a city councilwoman. I sent a response, citing the law that protected my work, and copied the HOA, city officials, and the press. Her lawyer backed off within hours. The city later ruled that the HOA's actions, led by Marlene, violated public safety protocols. She was barred from HOA leadership for 5 years, and the board lost its enforcement powers until a new election. The sweetest justice came when a tow truck hauled away Marlene's flashy golf cart, parked illegally near the park. She ran out, bathrobe flapping, yelling about immunity, but no one cared. Teens clapped, someone shouted, "Need a vegan wrap for the road?" I didn't gloat. I turned up my music and kept cooking. In the end, I won not by fighting dirty, but by standing firm, documenting everything, and trusting the community. Marlene's rules couldn't break the bond. We built one plate of food at a time. My truck, once nearly towed away, became a symbol of resilience. Neighbors still stop by, saying, "You're the food truck guy, right?" I hand them a plate and smile. Yep, the guy they try to stop while feeding heroes. What do you think about Marlene's actions and the community's response? Have you ever faced petty power plays or injustice in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about standing up to bullies and building stronger communities together.